parameter. The buildings after buildings are in big cities, and students do not really have the kind of privilege, or exclusive environment that the traditional universities have. So in particular type of urban environment that produces also higher education, and gradually we have the open university model, and we also evolve into community colleges where you are actually trying to address issues within the communities. Those were the evolution, the changes that have occurred. However, we find, at least in this country, we have found that no matter which model one adopted initially, there's a tendency to try to model itself after the traditional elitist system. For instance, distance education learning eventually needed to have some kind of a classroom setting. There's also the whole degree granting ceremony becomes something that is a ritual that every university wants to have. So the formalization and the formalization of the system and trying to get everything into one particular pattern happens. The notion behind that is that university, regardless of its model, tends to try to make itself exclusive and very elitist in some sense, as witnessed by all the different paraphernalia associated with universities. That having said that, my point is that, having said that, we need to understand that that's the university role. But as society evolves and there's complexities and diversity happening in society, can university itself only focus itself on producing, knowledge for people, exclusive set of people, hoping that they will become, the catalyst of change? We have found that that did not really happen so much, at least not in the Asian context. The graduates of many universities have become successful, but on their own, for their own personal mobility, upward mobility. They have become successful in their careers. They have become successful in whatever their quest is. But the spin-off effect to society has not been correspondingly equal to what universities have hoped for in the beginning. And this is taken from my own personal experience. I started out teaching, hoping that if I were the best teacher, my students will learn from me and I'll inspire them to be, socially minded. I'll inspire them to work for society. But it did not really quite happen that way. Of the thousands of people that I work with, very few would actually become socially committed. So as a result of that, gradually, the programs that we have in my university, I myself, started to create the Center for Philanthropy and Civil Society and try to make the university more relevant in terms of creating programs and projects that will go directly to the community. Having said that, I would also like to talk about why there is an urgency I would stress, an urgent need for universities to play a much more leading role in social transformation, which is what the title that was given to me, particularly putting in place the idea of the MDG development goals. What are the goals? The goals are actually aiming at different things. Number one, basic needs. Can the basic needs of people be fulfilled throughout the world? Can countries meet the basic needs of their people? Can the capability and capacity building be built within the country? Can people be more capable of doing things? Or empowerment of people. For instance, a topic that is very close to my heart is gender equality. And you look at the issue of gender equality, which is one of the indicators, one of the goals of the MDG Plus. It's about gender equality. All these particular goals are something that universities have looked at them, but in a sort of distant way. We talk about knowledge creation, we talk about issues, but we have not actually extended ourselves to realize the goals. What universities tend to do, excuse me, is to have very traditional programs, conventional curriculums, and hoping that the curriculums themselves will lend itself to change ultimately. So there's often a big gap between what we teach and what what we have taught can actually be translated into concrete practical actions. So I think this is here where I think that we need to really rethink and reevaluate our role and our position as universities of 2012. In this new era, can university remain the same? Can curriculums remain the same? I don't think that the kind of indirect transference or the indirect impact that we would have on society is enough for today, particularly in view of 4 different things that I would like to talk about. The first one is the world as a whole, not only us here in Thailand or in Asia, but the world as a whole is facing a moral and ethical crisis. And I would repeat that we have a moral and ethical crisis with increased consumerism, the second point, and mindless consumption, heightened materialism, as proposed by all the television programs that we watch. Most of the television programs we watch, the medias, the media that we consumed tend to heighten all these aspects. It's extremely difficult for people within universities to fight against the tide of powerful money-backed media programs. And so as a result of that, there is a moral and ethical crisis. The moral and ethical crisis, at least in our case in Thailand, came from the fact that religion no longer holds a strong place in everyday life of people. The notion of right versus wrong, what is sinful, what is good, what is bad, all these values are no longer being, sort of assimilated, learned by people through everyday life experience. We have been pushed to become good at our studies, to do well in math and science, to be able to do this and that for, personal quest, personal advancement in life. But what is sadly lacking is the moral foundation that used to be built through different vehicles, one of which is religion, that has a very strong impact on our life. Now, consumerism is unavoidable. Anywhere you go, there are advertisements for everything from skin lightening product to, God knows what else. The kind of money that went into advertising is amazing. And so one is influenced by it directly, indirectly. And if you don't have the latest phone, model of phone, you don't have an iPad, you are made to feel extremely inferior. Those are the kind of issues that are surfacing in society: consumption, materialism, etc. And also, we find that because of diversity, which is not a bad thing in itself, but diversity without shared values, basic shared values in society, diversity, conflicts, competitiveness, without a basic shared value, lead to sort of loss of shared values and goals of a society. And this is what we are currently facing in this country. Political divisiveness came from what? Came from a lack of mutual understanding or shared values of which direction the country needs to go forward. So as a result of that, each person, each party, each group thinks that they are the vanguards of democracy. They have the only way to the truth. The noble path ahead is, whatever else is in their own hand. Everyone else is wrong. So there is a lack of tolerance too. Lack of tolerance for other people's ideas. There's a lack of tolerance for lack of understanding that we need to share the same basic common understanding of what is good, what are the basic values for society that we need to subscribe to in spite of political differences. We can have political differences, but we need to have shared goals and shared values for society. So that is completely absent at the moment. And the fourth point, I think that we need to empower citizens. By empowering that we talked about all the time, it means actually empowering the capacity of people to think for themselves, to have critical ability to discern for themselves, and also the analytical ability to analyze situations and not to be herded by all the propagandas that are going on in society, whether through media, through political figures, through political parties, or through whatever that come our way, or through Facebook friends. That's another source of, all this mobilization of ideas and leading people, herding them as a group into doing some things that people themselves lack the critical faculty, the analytical ability, and the power of synthesis to actually understand what is needed. So I think that because of these 4 issues, university needs to take a much more proactive role to be at the forefront of leading society. We can no longer afford to sit back and just admit our students with the best test scores and bring them in and train them in the conventional method and hope that they will do something for society. We'll be too far behind, the changes that are occurring. So I think that we need to redesign, reshape, and reconfigure. Redesign, reshape, and reconfigure university, not only as a concept itself. What is the role of the university? What are we for? How can we be relevant today? And also as an operational entity, how should we operate it? If we are bounded by the rigid rules of Ministry of Education in trying to follow the standards of the West, in having publication in Western journals, as the sign of success, then what time, what energy will we have to be able to engage our own society in a creative manner or in a very proactive manner? So university needs to be a vital, active, and true partner of society. And I said partner of society by leading in terms of we have the ideas and knowledge, but we need to be partnering with society. So in other words, it's not just a top-down engagement. Oftentimes, the models that we adopt in universities, it's very much like top-down engagement. We think this is good for you, we work with you in the community. We work with a particular community group, and we hope that you will be our social lab, we'll work with you, we can produce some paper, or that sometimes university exploits the surrounding community, using them for their own ends. And I think it's time is past for such kind of model of activity. Engagement means symmetrical and not just asymmetrical relationship between the university and society. And so what can be done and should be done? I know that I'm rapidly running out of time. I need to catch a flight. But anyway, what can be done and should be done to achieve the desired engagement? I think that's short-term, medium-term, and long-term engagement. Let me go over quickly. For short-term engagement, I think that immediately we need to initiate and increase different kinds of interactions with society in general, communities, groups, networks, etc. We need to open up the university as a space for people to meet and exchange. I know that this was extremely difficult. When I was president of my institute, I allowed NGO network to organize a meeting in the university, open up the university for such a work. My staff was so upset with me. They're going to ruin the place. How are we going to manage it? Who's going to pay for all this? Those were the traditional questions. And they're not even university people. I said, because they're not university people, we need to open up the university for them to come in. This is a gesture, and that was more than 10 years ago. But anyway, in other words, we need to do all this. We need to be able to reduce the barriers and the image of elitism. University it's a vanguard of knowledge. University needs to produce knowledge. There's no doubt about it. But university also needs to have a heart. Needs to have a heart and needs to be engaged. And also, it should encourage and support workable and useful partnership programs. That's immediately, short term, we can do this. For the medium term goals, activities, I think there should be a systematic restructuring of learning programs to address the MDG goals that we talked about. So I'll just, because in the interest of time, I'll only talk about empowerment. If we truly want to talk about human rights, gender equality, we cannot just do piecemeal programs and projects. They will help only to a certain extent. But if we really want to talk about human rights and equality in this part of the world, you really have to have value change and mindset change. How can university design programs and projects that will address all people in the society to understand the basic principles of human equality and also the basic principles of gender equality? It has to be assimilated, to be learned by osmosis by the people that, in the process of learning the values of equality. It It cannot be forced to happen. So I think that these are the issues that we need to address. So in other words, traditional curriculums need to be revised. For long-term engagement, and I believe in deep engagement, to achieve the goals of fairness, justice, gender equality, etc., we need to really go much deeper in terms of trying to devise systems and methods by which we can make people, not just our students, but the entire society, be able to understand issues, social issues and problems in the totality, in a holistic manner, which means that we have to really extend ourselves to society. We have not done that in the past. That's why we have all the problems we're currently facing. We need to actually extend ourselves to make learning, building critical faculty, having analytical skills, having the power of synthesis, all the three components as an everyday skill of people in the whole country. We focus our energy and attention on how to extend this to the country, all people in the country as a whole. So I think that it will help to reduce many of the things that we're talking about. I'm sorry that I have to, conclude the talk, but I'll just leave you with just one example of what we have done recently in the last 3 years. This is going on the third year. This is to try to devise curriculum change into schools, primary school system, and secondary school. This is with the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration requested us to do something about anti-corruption. And I thought about it, we thought about it, and we thought that in order for it to work, if you want to have true value change, you have to start from the youngest age. So we decided to work on children from kindergarten to third grade in the first year, and from fourth grade to sixth grade in the second year. And this year we're working on middle school, 7th to 9th grade. But learning should be fun. Learning should be challenging. Learning should not be the traditional way that we make children learn. So to learn the values, we picked 5 values that we thought are very important. The first one is honesty and integrity. The second one is social responsibility. The third one is the second one is responsibility. The third one is a sense of the greater good and common good. The fourth value, we talked about fairness and justice. And the fifth one is sufficiency. Sufficiency is moderation, that you do not need too much to live. They harmonize with each other. And in order to do that, we felt that we could not just, as a university, we cannot just do the curriculum and give it to the teachers. We felt that we need to do not only the course outline or the teaching manual, we also need to have all the equipments for the teachers to use. We wrote songs, not ourselves. We invited songwriters to write songs, plays, dramas, games, various methods by which the students will learn in a very fun and creative manner. But in order for the teachers to buy in, just bring the ordinary teachers to a new set of teaching methods, they would not adopt it. So we said that part of the condition is to have the teachers come through workshops and training with us so that they'll be able to use all these equipments. So it's the kind of project that we try to design in order to be able to infiltrate schools, systems, so that children can learn in a new way, so that learning values will be something that is fun, challenging, interesting. So I would end with, trying to, sorry about the time, I will end with trying to encourage all of us here that we, as people from the universities, need to rethink about our role. And we also need to rethink about the interesting and creative programs that we can do to try to make society better, to meet the goals of the MDG, but the larger goals of how to achieve a fairer, better, more just society that is, amenable to all sectors of society. Thank you very much.
From all over the world, and my dear friends, very good afternoon to all. I am really very happy to present paper here on the importance of value-based higher education in India. So before that, I want to go to one important quotation. If wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If wealth is lost, something is lost. If character is lost, everything is lost. To begin with the first question, why values? We are well aware of the role of values in life. They provide a framework, a guide, the rights for purposeful, a quick and efficient movement through life. They give a reason to live and, if needed, a reason to die. They bring the element of meaning into life. A value-driven person's life is neither a seesaw nor does its movement resemble treadwood. So why values in education? The function of true education is to build on integrated personality. Value-oriented education should not be consumed as an enunciation of a series of do's and don'ts. The idea of series of do's and don'ts implies a belief that there are certain actions which are absolutely good and there are others which are absolutely bad. An inner process, however, shows that outer action derive their value only in relation to the inner motive and the inner consciousness from which those actions behind each one of them, there is the living vibration of the right quality. On the other hand, there are several says that knowledge is important, but we all know that such a thing is wisdom, and that comes only on basis of system in an atmosphere and environment in which basic moral values, the highest purpose of life, can be understood by all concerned. It is same thought that Swami Vivekananda, he said, talking about the role of education. Education is not the amount of information. The methodical effort towards learning basic facts about humanity. And the core idea behind value education is to cultivate the essential values in the students, society or government. Value education is important to help everyone in improving the value system that she holds and put them into use. Once we understand our values in life, we can examine and control the various choices we make in our universal values, personal values and social values. The family system in India has a long tradition of imparting value education right from the ancient practice of the Gurukul system. But with the modern developments,
So how could a teacher identify that change?
That changes are taking place.
Changes are taking place. How could a teacher can identify?
Yes,
Perceive? How could?
by analyzing the students' behavior in classroom, they can easily identify how students are behaving in classroom, and so through that we can easily identify. So good student properly come to the school and college, they do what.
In sociological point of view, this must be quite same in another disaster. This is Thailand. This is data is December 2011, and 693 people were confirmed dead, and 3 people were missing in the flood upper part of Thai. Flood is usually thought as a natural disaster. However, the flood occurred in last year was considered not just as a natural disaster, but as a human error. So, for example, the Thai government was actually sued by Thai citizens. So, they are in judgment, and I will talk later again this. And about Japan. Meanwhile, in case of Great East Japan earthquake accompanying the tsunami in Japan, this data is March 11th. And so 15,800 people were dead and 3,000 people were missing, so much. And according to report by National Police Agency, so this data is also the same. Look at the right part. There are many houses. The airport is, but this is after airport disappeared by tsunami. I was near here.
So you point this to show where.
Yeah. This is
Use the cursor.
Yeah. This is our airport. And here, every every houses disappear. So, so then, so much that this is my labo picture after earthquake. My lab was in Tokyo, Japan, near Tokyo, another prefecture. But this is the Bruxelles. Yeah. And this is the
like some of the communities around our campus in Thailand. It usually it used to be the field, the rice field, and then somehow this day full of it. This is the central part of Thailand, so these communities never get water before that. So this is like the high kind of the flooding in the central part of Thailand. It is interiors and national disaster prevention plan, and also we have the warning centers, and also at the national government agencies, a number of them involved with the situations, including the local government agencies, and also communities and non-government agencies, so-called HILGO, the disaster risk frameworks. It's kind of like focusing on risk reduction, awareness buildings, preventive and mitigative issues, and preparations measures, also operational guidelines for practice. Along with this framework, we focusing on the community-based management. Okay, but people in the communities have to be involved, and actually that the last flood that we have that. Not very much of the government, the community-based, and also the gender awareness approach. Also, take into the attention of the faculty members. So this is the situations that are finished. Okay, so that is a part of the problem also, because of before the water coming down and the rice is about to be harvested, and then some certain area that they need time to hide. So it's a lot of breaks. Along the canals. What social work do? The social workers' roles in the past, they have a very limiting role and function in disaster. The government or the society just expect them to only provide the basic needs, just only that, and then with this model, the practice that we have to